KUAM Sports is brought to you by Docomo Pacific. Better together.
It's a new week, so that means KUAM Sports is on the scene telling you what is going on around our island, and we are spanning the island to bring you everything that's going on with sports at the youth level, at the senior level, and all stuff in between. And I have here a dear friend of mine, someone who I've not spoken to in quite a while. So we got to have soccer on the show, and Jill Espiritu with the Guam Football Association is the best person to find out everything that's going on with us. Jill, I know you're literally right up the street from us here in Harmon at the facilities there. We could have done this like Zoom call with like 2 paper cups and a piece of string, but I'm glad to have you here on Zoom.
Hafide, thank you for having me on your show.
Okay, there's always something going on up at the facilities and everything like that. So how do you actually separate, when the national team is going through like its player development training competition, and then you have, more domestic events like the jamborees and, the leagues and the club?
Yeah, so the past couple of months, we've had our national teams train at the National Training Center, mostly on weekdays. And then we reserve the weekends for a lot of our leagues and events. So currently we have 8 national teams that are training at the Guam National Training Center in Harmon. And so we have our U14 boys and girls. We have our U17 boys and girls as well, U20 men's and women's, and then our senior teams, so the Matao and the Masakata as well. And right now, in this fall season, just earlier this month, we had our U20 national team travel to Laos to play in the AFC U20 Asian Cup tournament qualifiers there. And that was our first youth national team to return to AFC tournaments since the pandemic suspended the tournaments. Mm-hmm. So they did well there. And so they've returned to the island, and now we're preparing our U17 national team. They're going to be traveling to Indonesia. They actually depart Guam Tuesday afternoon. Mm-hmm. So they'll be heading to Jakarta. They're going to be playing Indonesia, Malaysia, Palestine, and United Arab Emirates. And for a lot of those players on the U17 squad, because the tournaments have been suspended for almost 2 years, it's probably their very first international tournament outside of Guam.
Speak real quick, Jill, about what it means, because, when we train here on the island, obviously, the Guam national program has its own tempo, its own style. But even though that's always evolving, what it means to take our brand of football and then bring it over to the international stage and say, if Laos is maybe more defensive minded, and then, Jakarta is more aggressive and a real attacking team. What does that mean for player development and getting player growth?
Yes, so the national teams, do earn a wealth of experience competing in these tournaments, regardless of how or what the scoreline will show at the end of the match. Teams always have different playing styles, different philosophies, and same thing with our Guam team. We do have our own established playing style and philosophy. And before these trips, the coaching staff usually looks at video highlights, clips, full matches of the opposition. So they start planning ahead. And so you'll see that the teams may have different formations depending on which teams they're going to be playing against. And for the players to adapt to these situations and to start making their own decisions on the pitch, that's, you only get that with playing these international matches. Mm-hmm. So with our U20 team, it ranged from playing the host country Laos, and they also played against East Asian heavyweights Japan in that same tournament. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times it's a quick turnaround for the players to adjust to different playing styles, but at the same time trying to assert our own playing style. That's usually the best case scenario against these international teams.
And it's also a challenge, Jill, obviously, because especially when you're dealing with maybe our under 14 or under 17 national teams, to develop, a champion's mindset, and to really say, it's not just about, eating well and practicing, until, you're absolutely exhausted, and, and maybe lifting weights, even for young people like that. But it's also, like you said, studying video, getting scouting reports, knowing a team's tendencies, really educating yourself and really incorporating, mental toughness and knowledge into the match when it actually begins. So maybe talk about like how you guys are preparing our athletes in that regard.
Yep. So again, our head coaches, are researching the opposition and also, relaying that to the players, and also encouraging players to watch high level matches. So whether it be matches from the Premier League, La Liga, other international matches, maybe even Matau matches, especially for the youth players, always encouraged to support our national teams. There's that aspect.
They're in the pipeline.
Yeah, exactly.
That could be them, in a couple of years.
Yeah, exactly. That's a future generation. Other than that, we also have our high performance team led by Pavel Gubenko. Like he's leading the teams in terms of high performance. So in the gym, also helping them with nutrition and just getting them, I guess, strength and conditioning is key, especially at the international level. So we do emphasize fitness at that level as well, too. So like you said, I mean, it's not just physical fitness, but also mental fitness and also raising their soccer IQ. So, when they do get to higher levels, they're able to make the right decisions and also compete against these higher level teams.
Mm-hmm. Do you take the approach like, we want to train you and basically like prepare you in every facet of the game, so by the time you're put into a particular competitive situation, it's just muscle memory? Or like you said, they can still improvise, they can decide, they can use the physical gifts that you've honed in them, and also kind of like the mental acuity?
I mean, we like to prepare our athletes holistically. So whether they do continue playing at the highest level, or maybe, they get on a college team and, they have to adapt to that as well. Or maybe it's just to reach whatever goal they have and they use what they experience playing sports in a team setting to help them achieve what they want out of life. I mean, that's really what we want to prepare all of our athletes for.
I like that holistically. Where were you guys when I was like a young athlete? Because we'd practice for 3 hours and then we'd immediately go to 7-Eleven afterwards. So that was our training regimen. No, but I have infinite respect for the not just what you guys are doing today, but what you have done for several years leading up to this, and what you will do going forward, and actually developing a solid program of developing capable competitive athletes who are going to go out and represent our island really, really well.
Yeah. So, and it's not just domestic training. We don't just train in Guam for these tournaments abroad. We've also started to do a lot more training camps abroad as well. And these training camps can also double up as talent identification camps. So, we do get correspondences from players abroad who have some type of lineage to Guam. So based on FIFA eligibility rules, if the player was born in Guam, their biological parent was born in Guam, or a biological grandparent was born in Guam, they're eligible to play for Guam. So we've had a couple of players reach out to us saying that, they want to try to get into our national program and play in these international matches and also gain the experience for themselves while also representing, Guam. Like maybe they've never been to Guam, or maybe their parents miss Guam so much and they're so proud to have their kids play for Guam.
Or maybe like a military dependent that they were technically born on Guam and then they got restationed, and like they do have that ability to come back and play.
Yes. So as long as the birth certificate of the player, the biological parent or the biological grandparent is Guam, GMH, Naval Hospital, or any other place in Guam, then they're eligible to play for Guam. But of course, that's only the first step. I mean, they still have to be selected by the coaches. So that's where these talent identification and training camps come in handy for the coaches to actually see them in person rather than just watching film from maybe their high schools where they play, or whatever league they play in.
Sure.
So we did have a couple of training camps earlier this year. In July, we had the U20 women's and women's level training camp in Japan. And then after that, we also had the Matau had a training camp in Paju, Korea. So thanks to the Korean Football Association, they were able to help us arrange this training camp at their national training facility. So I mean, that's where the Korean national teams train. So that was also a good experience for our players to see what kind of facilities, a top level country that's been
amazing.
to World Cups has.
Well,
Yeah.
For any self-respecting athlete at any level, I mean, forget, endorsement deals or, like how popular you might be with the guys and with the girls and, like a future opportunity. There is no greater honor than to play for country, or in our situation, than to represent like 671 when you go out and take the field. So that's wonderful. So let's talk now, Jill, about on the flip side, you guys are really, really busy with domestic competitions. And like I said, there's tournaments there all the time. It's packed. It's wonderful. It's an incredible spectator sport, and you guys got a lot going on.
Yeah. So earlier this year, I mean, we finished up our men's futsal league. So thank you to the Dededo Mayor's office for helping us arrange that at the Istanbul gym. So we had that over the summer, and then we also had our Bud Light Women's Soccer League return after, I would say over a 2-year hiatus due to the pandemic. So then we had that return as well. And just yesterday, actually, was the final week of matches for our Docomo Pacific Soccer Moms League and also our GFA Women's Recreational League. While at the same time, last week was the opening week of our Triple J Auto Group Robbie Weber Youth Soccer League. So it's usually these domestic leagues where a lot of our players start out. So our youth league, I mean, a lot of the youth national players started out, just having fun, playing in the youth league, maybe at the U6 level, chasing butterflies on the pitch, but suddenly developing a love for the game. So then they continue through our elite player pathway. So I mean, there's many opportunities, not only for players, but of course for our coaches, from our different clubs. Some of them have gone up to get their licenses and then coach our national team program. So we're happy to see the progression of coaches as well, and of course our referees too. So we have many young referees that start at the youth league, and then they move up to possibly getting a FIFA badge. So we had 2 assistant referees a couple of years ago earn that, and they had their start reffing at the youth league, where when I asked them how did they get started, they told me that they started because they wanted to just earn extra money to get, maybe to buy some video games or what they wanted when they were younger. And then
Jordans maybe, or
yeah. And then years later, I mean, they have a FIFA assistant referee badge, and that's like the highest level for officials.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, Guam is known, like not just locally, not just regionally, but like worldwide in the pro style program that you guys manage and like handle. So I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of work that you guys are doing, and the caliber has definitely been raised so high since the national team and then the youth programs. And like you said, some kids start out playing in just like the jamboree because they think it's something fun to do on the weekend. 5-10 years later, they've got GUAM, like on their jersey, and and they're taking the field. So it's amazing.
Yeah, and it's always an honor to represent Guam. So when you go to these tournaments, I mean, even for me as part of the staff, like if I travel as a media officer, before the matches, they always play the Guam hymn, and the players are in front of the Guam flag, and just seeing that, like, it gets very emotional. I'm not even a player, so I don't even know what kind of nerves and emotions they get just hearing that on the loudspeaker in a stadium.
Do you still get the goosies?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I get the goosies every time I go to I hear Panogi Tomorrow playing. It's an amazing honor.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is something that only a few can experience. And it really takes a committed, disciplined individual who really wants to play at the highest level and, will do what he or she needs to do to get there. And, and we try to encourage players who do want to reach the highest level to do what they can. So play at the highest league possible, come to national team training consistently, and then perform well at the matches.
Exactly. Well, Jill, before I let you go, because we're running out of time, but I do want to give you the opportunity to say, for people that have the passion for sports or they just want to get involved, maybe not necessarily as a player, if they want to, like you said, like be part of the staff and, this program that you guys have assembled takes a lot of people to put it all together, and it's a lot of moving parts. If people want to join up and they want to help out and contribute to this, how can they get in contact with you, and how can they do so?
Okay. Yep. So, I mean, they can find out more information on our website. So www.guamfa.com. So we have all of our news and opportunities there. We also, interested people may email us as well. So info@theguamfa.com or call us at the office. So 671-637-4321.
Perfect. So Jill Espiritu over at the Guam Football Association doing amazing things. And Jill, to you and your team, thank you so much, because, like we're so proud of both of, the Matao, the Masakata, the men's and women's national teams. And every time I pass by there when I'm on Harmon Loop Road and I just see, so many people just out there having fun and getting involved with sports. I mean, you guys have put together a wonderful environment.
Thank you very much for your support as well. So your support also keeps us moving.
Well, KUM's got your back. You know that. So, Jill, thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
KUAM Sports is brought to you by Docomo Pacific. Better together.